here to help you with breeze. Planting seeds and teaching skills. Teachers turn schoolyards to dreams. Who hates school gardens with ease?
Hello, green-minded teachers. Welcome to the School Gardens with Ease. I am your host, Leila Miriskandari, and this is episode 3 and essentially part 2 of the topic of community gardens versus school gardens that we started discussing in the previous episode, episode number 2. I encourage you to listen to that episode as we will be jumping right into the middle of this topic. And if you haven't listened to the previous episode, it might not completely make sense to you. We said let's not call our gardens community gardens. I told you one part of my reasoning behind it. And that's the fact that school gardens are built, grown, maintained, and harvested by different people than community gardens are. That was reason number 1, which we discussed in the previous episode. But there are many other differences between school gardens and community gardens that are worth talking about. Difference number 2, or reason number 2, is the fact that school gardens are grown with a different timeline than community gardens. First of all, community gardens have a much more flexible, how do I call it, like hours of operations, for lack of a better phrase, than school gardens do. School gardens are much more restricted because if, as we discussed in the previous episode, the students are the only people touching the garden, all the work has to be done during school hours. And it's not like you can, just suddenly remember that you didn't water the garden plot at 7 p.m. in the afternoon one day or on Sunday morning 10 a.m. and jump into your shoes and drop by this, garden plot and water it like you can do with community gardens or with your own backyard garden. Another important aspect of timing here is the fact that schools are closed during summertime, and therefore the main or the only gardeners, which are the students, are not present. With the community garden, summer marks the main growing time, essentially. That can't happen with the school garden for many reasons. First, and in my humble opinion, the most important reason is that you, the teacher, should be able to go to your summer vacation and detach completely from school. That's crucial to your mental and physical health. Everyone makes a big hero out of those teachers who are willing to sacrifice their summer to come take care of the school garden. And I'm going to be ruffling some feathers here. I know it for sure. And I apologize in advance to those who will not like what I'm about to tell you. But I think those teachers do a huge disservice to not only themselves and their, future year students, because they're going to not be refreshed and, rested when they go back to school, but also to the entire school garden community of teachers of all over the planet Earth, essentially, because they set a bad example and, destroy the school garden's reputation. They make every other teacher think that to grow a successful school garden, they have to sacrifice even more than they already sacrifice. And we all know that you teachers already sacrifice a lot. I mean, what are they trying to prove? That they are martyrs? I hate to break it to them, but we don't need more martyr teachers. We need more teachers who are willing to say no to unnecessary and pointless hard work. And coming to grow and even maintain a school garden during summertime when you have to be going to your very deserving summer vacation is both unnecessary and pointless. Plus, what's going to happen if that teacher burns out or moves to another school or just decides that they just don't have the capacity to do all of this hard work anymore next year? You see all those abandoned school gardens all over the place. That's what happens to most of them. Now, I promise that I'll explain why that type of work is unnecessary and pointless in future episodes, because I don't want to split your attention by going on a tangent here in this episode. So for now, I'll just leave it at that and get back to why. What happens that those teachers feel the need to come and grow and maintain the garden during summertime. What happens is they don't plan well for the timing that a school garden requires, because they think the only way to grow a garden is a community garden way, because when they pitched this idea, they pitched it as a community garden. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but parents will come and grow and, maintain this garden for us. But will they though? And how much of your personal time and energy do you have to put into, organizing them, meeting with them, training them, and then all throughout summer worrying about what they will or will not do properly, what mistakes are they going to make, if they will grow the wrong thing in the wrong place, if they're going to be harvesting too far, or weed out your bolting and seed producing vegetables that you are looking forward to coming back to in fall by mistake, spraying the wrong thing in the wrong place, watering the wrong way, digging the wrong bed, etc., etc. The only task you should assign to your volunteering students who are only accompanied by their parents for summer is watering. Now, future episode alert, don't want to go on another tangent here. That means there should be no growing, no weeding, no harvesting, no fertilizing, no cleaning up, no nothing like that during summertime, only watering. That requires perfect planning for the right type of plants at the right time and precise timing that a community garden does not require, but a school garden does. Now let's recap what we discussed so far. The differences between a community garden and a school garden that we've discussed so far are: number one, they are built, grown, maintained, and harvested by different people. They are built, grown, maintained, and harvested with different timing in mind. And now, number three, community gardens and school gardens are designed and located differently. Now, when people imagine community gardens, they usually see land with many garden plots, and usually each garden plot is assigned to a family. And I know that there are many different setups for community gardens, but this is the most common and therefore what usually most people imagine when they imagine a community garden. And when they expand that idea to a school, they imagine a schoolyard filled with, many garden beds, and each garden bed is assigned to a classroom. This is already a huge, expensive project, and it requires the buy-in from many teachers. But that expense and the need for multi-classroom involvement hinders this project. So if you are one teacher and none of your colleagues are interested in this, and your school doesn't have the budget, the huge budget for, building that type of community garden setup, there is no way you could ever build a community garden in your school. But when you want to build a school garden, as I touched upon in the previous episode, all you need is you, your students, your class time, all of which you already have, by the way, curriculum connected growing lesson plans, a few bags of soil, a few packs of seeds, a bunch of, inexpensive seed starter cups and buckets, and you can start a school garden in your own classroom. Admittedly, you also need sunlight, so if you can't find good sunny windows anywhere in your school, you'll have an extra expense for a few grow lights just for you, not for the entire school. This is not going to be a huge budget and a huge project again, just for you. And if you really want to plant outside, desperately want to do that, all you will need is 1 or 2 garden beds or a few containers. But I have to say, a school garden can be entirely placed indoors and finished and be done with at the end of the school year. I call those types of gardens classroom gardens, and the ones that are outside, school gardens, just, to distinguish between them. But both of these types of gardens are educational gardens. And here we have another future episode alert, but I'll keep it short by just saying that classroom gardens that the teachers in my Oasis Classroom program, for example, build are impressive, lush, beautiful, productive, and huge contributors to learning, the curriculum, and the seedlings that come out of these gardens create a lot of entrepreneurial and philanthropic opportunities for the students. even though I'm a huge fan of outdoor school gardens and I have programs for those as well, just because a classroom garden is not outside, it doesn't mean it's not impressive, impactful, and educational and amazing. So calling your garden a community garden limits your imagination for placement of your garden because it can even just be placed in your own classroom. When it comes to design also, a school garden needs certain design elements that a community garden does not, and vice versa. Another future episode alert. Now let's jump into reason number 4 very quickly, as this episode is getting a little bit long and I don't want to, test your patience, and I also respect your time. The 4th reason you don't want to call your garden a community garden is school gardens and community gardens are utilized completely differently. Since school gardens' main purpose is education, they are to be taught into existence. So, what do I mean by that? You know how sometimes you, for example, assign your students a scientific craft project, like, for example, you assign them to go and send them on a journey to build a mock-up bridge. Those bridges are not just created just because. They are taught into existence. There are math and science concepts that you are teaching your students, and with this hands-on experiential project, you are deepening the learning for those concepts. Or when your students create and perform a play, that play is taught into existence. A school garden is the same, with the difference that at the end of the day, you get produce to enjoy and share with your community. And just like your next year students will build new bridges or create and perform another play, your next year students will also build and grow a garden. A school garden is utilized as a modern, hands-on learning and teaching tool. And that's another reason why you shouldn't call your garden a community garden. I'm sure there will be other reasons that will pop up in my brain, and I will regret not discussing them in these 2 episodes, but these are what I could come up with right now off the top of my head. And I hope it was enough to convince you to not ever pitch your garden idea as a community garden. I understand that the word community is a hot topic, and you think by using it, you're actually helping to convince people to support you, but it creates false expectations and a whole lot of problems and headaches for you later. This is one of the reasons most gardens on school grounds fail or are abandoned after a few seasons. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you soon in the next episode. You've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and please share this episode with other teachers who might be interested in this topic. See you next week for a new episode.